Welcome back to Interjections. Now it's a bit shorter episode with just me and Irfan. So, Irfan, early morning. What's
Yeah,
up?
definitely early morning, but it's always a good morning when we're recording after a win. So no complaints here. Got a special bonus edition for all of you, midweek episode just to kind of recap the Lazio match. So I'm excited about it because I'm more excited than the match was exciting. But I think I'll take it anyway. It's always good to talk about a win.
Yeah. Let's get right into it. As we missed the last episode, we could first talk about the anticipation and the expectation of this match. I can tell my view or kind of opinion what I wanted from this match, but I would like to hear your take.
Yeah,
What was your like initial before
yeah.
the
Going into
match?
this match, frankly, I was surprised we were playing this early. For some reason, in my head, I thought we were going to play the next day. So, like, I thought we were going to play today. Um, and I knew what was at stake, which is like you're playing Lazio in the Coppa, and if you beat them, then you have a rematch against Milan. Unlike some, I actually savor a rematch against Milan. I'm good with it, but I also could care less about this match. It was just one of those things, given the amount of injuries we've had and how difficult the match congestion has been. It just seemed like such a burden to add another kind of round of midweek fixtures and knowing what we have at stake. I think when I saw the Champions League draw and kind of how generally favorable it was for us, though obviously nothing is taken for granted. When I saw how favorable it was for us, I really thought that it made a lot of sense to kind of lean in to the Champions League, and then also, given that we had taken the lead from Napoli in the league, to then focus on the league too, and then because of those two tracks and kind of how things shifted for Inter's outlook just in the last couple of days, I really could have cared less about this Lazio match. I was like, I don't really care who he starts. I'm fine with whatever ends up happening in the match. So that was my mentality going in. What about you?
Yeah, it was pretty much the same. I wouldn't say I hope we lose, but it was very close to that because, like you said, the kind of fixture congestion it's like getting insane, and all these injuries piling up. I don't want any extra games there. But like Jay mentioned in the previous episode, these great coaches or coaches who are like destined to win, and they have the mentality to win. I fully understand why Inzaghi is doing this. He probably wants to take a revenge on Milan because he hasn't been able to beat them for a while now. And I get even the team probably they want, of course, they want to like win every game they play, and especially as there's the Milan waiting for them. Of course, they want to win this, but I just feel that if we end up at the end of the season, if we end up winning the Coppa Italia but don't win anything else, then there might be a feeling that okay, what if we just dropped out of Coppa at this point, and then we had like maybe extra gear in the Serie A to win the Scudetto. But that was the feeling like why I would have been ready to risk the zero tituli kind of season with the idea in mind that we would put like everything for those two main competitions and then just let this one slide. But here we are now, and maybe we could start by looking at the lineups, the starting lineups, how we started this match. So it was obviously Martinez starting as Sommers out. Then there were in the defense there were De Vrij in the middle, Bissek on the left, and Pavard on the right. Midfield was Zielinski, Aslani, Fratesi, the feared. Bermuda Triangle, so to
Oh
speak.
yeah.
Um, and then Dimargo and Darmian on the wings, and then in forward it was the bench guys Ornatovic and Taremi. What did you think of
Yeah,
the starting
so
lineup?
when I saw the lineup initially, I thought, okay, Inzaghi kind of feels the same way I do about this, which is what happens happens sort of thing, you know. And I think part of it is he doesn't have the luxury to be able to rotate with enough high quality players that he could have given this a real shot. I think he was thinking like us, which is I have a Champions League that I have to manage. I have a league now that I have to manage where I'm actually the leader, but it's very tight. So I need to put out, the best 11 that I can put out there that doesn't contain my starters at all. So, his hand was forced when it came to the goalie, obviously. But when it comes to the rest of the lineup, it was nice to see Pavard. I feel like Pavard's hitting a really, really good form for us right now. He's been just a total like wall in defense, which I think has really been nice to see. I was fine with Bissek. Like I said, I think a lot of people have seen also that Bissek can be a good asset, even though he can be a little shaky at times. And DeVry was fine, given that we have a Cherby back now. The midfield, you're right, was was a little head scratching when because we've talked about this a lot, but the Aslani Fratesi pivot just really doesn't work. And I thought, they both played pretty poorly in the first half, especially. Aslani picked up a pretty early and weak yellow card. Like he shouldn't have. You just got to be more responsible on that front. But what I found really kind of interesting was Fertazzi was like a ghost for me, at least in this entire match. Just not really there, not really taking advantage of another opportunity that he had to start. And even Zelensky, I think in the first half especially, was very passive. He was very worried about making a mistake. So the midfield again, yeah, I think was fairly disappointing overall. The forward play, at least in that first half, it was so frustrating because at least Arnautovic, you can tell, has some sort of instinct to get forward, to get into difficult situations and try to like score some goals. But like Taremi, I'm just like, I don't understand what kind of forward this guy is. Like every time he has the ability recently to like touch the ball, it's almost like the ball goes backwards. It's like, he's trying to play regista or something from a forward position. It's very, very bizarre. So I really didn't understand his performance at all. But when I saw the lineup, I knew we were going to be in trouble. And sure enough, the first half especially was pretty ugly. And then luckily things picked up a little bit in the second half. Part of it because I think Inzaghi was forced to sub in Dumfries for Darmian, who got injured. But that was my initial view of it until we get to that first cracker of a goal, which we'll talk about. But what about you? What did you think of the setup?
Ye- I like the starting lineup. Of course, I wouldn't have liked to see Dimarco starting, but uh, I guess Inzaghi was out of options. Maybe some people were hoping he would like start some of the Primavera kids, but we know that's not gonna happen. He had what was it? He had a goalkeeper, then Alexio, central defender, Matteo. Is it Kochi? I don't know how to pronounce that. I think he's a left back, so maybe he could have started. Then the Pieri, is he a midfielder? Didn't this play as a forward in
Yeah,
the
I think
Champions League
so. Yeah.
match back then? Yeah, and then there was the Topalovic and Berenbrook as midfielders there on the bench, but none of them obviously started, but didn't play a single minute. So it was like widely reported how Inzaghi called these kids for this match, but well, as we saw, it's still important for the coach to get results and get the wins. So he isn't going to risk anything in these matches, and I kind of get it. But yeah, starting lineup was fine for me because my anticipation or like the expectation was like whatever happens, like just use the guys we don't have to use against Napoli and so on. So I was fine with that. It was a big disappointment to see Darmian go out so early because it meant that okay, Dumfries will play like what was it 70 minutes in this match, and he like probably the plan was not use him at all or like max 20 minutes. So that was a bit of a bummer. But yeah, starting lineup was what it was, and going to the first half, it really looked like that as well, as you touched it a bit already. We couldn't get like anywhere from our half, or it was really occasional. I think Lazio had a bit better starting lineup than us. They had Guendouzi, Rovella, Zaccagni, and Dia there, Romagnoli. Uh, I don't know, did they have actually some people injured? I think Castellanos is injured, so he wasn't playing there. But I think Lazio pressed us pretty well to our half, and we couldn't get out of there like constantly. It was like occasional longer ball, and maybe probably Arnautovic Dumfries was able to connect to it, and then we were able to do some kind of attacks, but it was very very random. And I think the stats were like pretty hilarious from the first half. Our expected goals was like 0.5 0.05, so versus Lazio had actually 0.63, which was, well, I guess it's fair, but I don't know, did they have really that much like a threat to our goal? I don't really remember. There were few shots, but were they really that dangerous? I don't know. How did you feel? How did you feel about our game in the first
Yeah,
half?
I mean, I think you summed it up pretty well. We were pretty poor. I think we struggled a lot to kind of find our footing in the midfield, and one of the things that you mentioned was it was surprising that he had to play DeMarco. DeMarco he just doesn't look the same to me at all. I know Jay and Andrew were talking about this too in the episode, but I don't know if he's injured or if he's recovering from something or if he's limited in some way. But he doesn't look like himself. Like you can still see that bit of quality here and there, but he just doesn't seem like he's 100%. So even he wasn't really able to do much. Now, as I've said like a million times, I still think the best way to get something out of DeMarco is to have Bastoni on his side as well because they work so well together. So maybe he was missing Bastoni,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't think Lazio played that well in the first half. I'm surprised to see that their expected goals was zero point 0.6, 0.60. I'm not surprised by what you said ours was, but yeah, the first half was it was boring. It was a slog. It just wasn't very, very entertaining at all. Neither team could do much. There was times where we like struggled even to get the ball out of our half, which was really bizarre. But even though we struggled with that, it didn't seem like Lazio was really on the front foot or looking particularly dangerous. So it seemed like it was just kind of like a malaise. Just seemed like whatever. But then the second half starts, and sure enough, soon into the second half, our savior emerges. What did you think of Arnautovic and his goal?
Yeah, well, actually, that was in the
Oh, it
first
was in the
half,
first half.
like
Oh,
latter
nice.
part
Okay.
of the first half. Yeah, it was 39th minute, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, that was our. I think that was our first shot on goal. Like, actually, that was our first shot in the whole first half. First half, yeah. That was I would say unexpected given what we've seen from Arnautovic so far. But it was nice to see him being able to connect the ball like that because usually we see those kind of attempts from Barella, and usually they are nowhere near. So I was happy. I was happy for the guy as well because he seems to be so like he's so emotional, and he needs this kind of happy moments, these successful plays. So it was nice to see. Uh, one I just noticed this. There was this one story that that the referees after the match there was some kind of a decision or statement by the referees that the goal was like valid. I didn't realize that during the match that De Vrij was actually in an offside position in that goal, and he was like blocking the goalie's view. And looking at these pictures, I think it should have been invalidated the whole goal because the goal is like peeking behind De Vrij, even if De Vrij is like several meters uh, in front of the goalie, but he's still in offside position. But but the referee association they just stated that okay, it was fine. He couldn't have saved it anyway, which is a bit bit kind of a bit kind of a strange claim to say that if the Rai wasn't there at all, like maybe he would been able to react to that shot. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was pretty good shot. I think it was pretty close to the corner anyway. But yeah, there was this one detail I just noticed like half an
Yeah, I
hour
don't think he
ago.
would have saved that in any event. But it's interesting that they used that as the logic. But it was funny because when the goals happened, I had no idea that anybody was even slightly offside. It just didn't seem like it. Even when they were playing the replays, it didn't
Yeah,
seem like
yeah,
it. But that's interesting. They should
yeah.
take the
Me
hockey
neither. Me
approach, which
neither.
is like unless the guy's like unable to like physically move to play the ball, then or to play the puck, then it should not be overturned because it's so subjective. Like, oh, was the player in the way offside and the goalie couldn't see or not? Because there's players who are offside, but if they're not involved in the play or if they're not supposedly in the goalkeeper's view, then it's never called offside. So it's such a subjective call, I feel like.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, it's always nice to see Inter score, but even at that moment, I felt like okay, nice, we scored, but then like
Yeah.
okay, that so what? It's just this Coppa Italia, it just
Yeah,
feels
and the and
so
the question is
redundant.
the question is, Miko,
But
like if now that we're in the now that we've advanced, if we end up facing Milan, if we're like sandwiching a match in between important league fixtures and Champions League fixtures, is Inzaghi comfortable putting this same sort of lineup out there against Milan? Given that they are a direct rival, given that they've beaten us so many times, like if he puts this sort of lineup out there against Milan, who frankly have nothing else to play for this year, then what happens if we inevitably draw or somehow lose with our backup squad in there, and then people like Jay and others are going to say, well, Milan own us, and there's some psychological or emotional hit to the team because we ended up losing to Milan. Is he going to roll that dice? Is he going to start this sort of lineup now going forward too in the semifinal? And then if we move past Milan in the final, it just becomes harder. I feel like the threshold gets higher and higher and harder for him to sort of put this sort of lineup out there again now.
now I think the game changes a bit with the Coppa, like the Andrea J mentioned that before semifinals it's like whatever, but now you are there, and especially now it's against Milan. I think it changes a bit, but it's going to be interesting to see what's the reaction by Inzaghi, how he's gonna approach these semi-final matches. Uh, but yeah, quickly about the second half, it was, I don't know, was it even more uneventful than the first one? Uh, but at least Lazio had fewer shots on goal. We had we had like two, or was it only one? I think it was only one, the penalty penalty. Uh, what about the subs? How did you feel about the subs? We had like, well, Dumfries was in the first half, then Calhanoglu and Bastoni came in, and Correa,
Yeah. The,
like about in
the
one
it
hour
was
mark.
interesting to see the subs. I mean, the Correa one was totally fine, and it turned out to be okay because he somehow drew a penalty. And then the Hakan sub was fine too, because honestly, I feel like Hakan needs more playing time since he's come back from injury. He's been pretty rusty, and I kind of I think that's probably something
Yeah,
to do with
yeah.
just missing some time. So I didn't mind him playing some minutes. Also, Aslani had picked up a yellow, so you knew he was going to come out. Um, and the subs overall were fine. I understood that it would have been better if he didn't have to play Dumfries, if he didn't have to bring in any of our starters, but it was okay because it did play limited minutes. So I didn't mind that. And obviously, it was important for the goal because, Correa set it up, and then we had Hakan just, he's just such a good penalty taker. He's just so calm, and he always puts the ball in like such a good spot. So that was nice to see as well. But yeah, the second half also was like fairly uneventful. But the one thing that I noticed was, if given where we are, and given the mentality that we had going into this match, which I'm sure extended not just to fans like us, but also to the players, it was interesting to see how little Lazio actually put forward. Like they net Isekson seemed okay at times, and Dia was okay, but it just didn't seem like there was a lot of effort or drive in Lazio either. Or I think our defense just did a really, really good job of like completely neutralizing them. They had more shots than us. They had more shots on goal than us, and Martinez made a couple of good saves, but it still like just didn't seem like Lazio was very threatening at all. And when I was watching them, the whole thing that I kept thinking about is like, yeah, I guess we don't care really what happens one way or another. But our players obviously have professional pride and they want to go out there and win, and it's important to them. But man, like I expected a lot more from them.
Yeah, yeah, but when looking at the stats, the expected goals over the whole match was, we had minus the penalty, we had like point 0.14, point 0.14, and we got two goals out of that. Of course, the other was the penalty, and maybe the Korea chance. If he wasn't fouled, it would have been like a pretty good chance. So maybe that's not a fair claim by me. But Lazio had close to one. So I think I think Martinez played well enough. He saved what he had to save, and maybe it was Lazio players weren't able to like proper finishes at their positions, but the XG stat is what it is. It's not always the most accurate one to pinpoint the kind of the domination. Anyway, um, yeah. Do we have anything else, or should we
No,
should we wrap up
let's wrap up. You want to
this
talk
one?
really quick about Napoli, since we missed being able to give a preview for Napoli.
Well, we could like very briefly, if you have any thoughts
Yeah, yeah,
thoughts on
yeah. I mean,
that match.
it's gonna be awesome. I mean, here we are pulling out a kind of unexpected lead. They've been so poor recently. They've been dropping so many points, which has allowed us to kind of sneak in there at the top of the table, even though we haven't necessarily played that well in the league either. But I'll take it. And so, it'll be one versus two. It'll be a tough match. I think it'll be pretty cagey. There, we said it now this time, cagey. Um, but I think given what happened with the Lazio match, hopefully, the players will be fairly well rested as much as they can be. Um, and I expect the team to come out and be motivated. Napoli seems to be one of those teams where, if you did want to talk about like a mental edge, like I don't feel like we give up too much on the mental side. It's not like Juventus, where we kind of go in as an underdog even when we're probably the better team on paper. So I expect us to kind of come out. I expect us to be pretty motivated. I expect us to be well rested enough, and go out there and play. And I just think the quality of this team when they're on is going to be too much for Napoli. I do worry about the form of DeMarco. Um, so we'll see what happens there. And then I worry, of course, about Lautaro just being super wasteful. But we'll see how it goes. I'm fairly optimistic, and I'm glad that we're playing this match from a position of strength. It's very small amounts of points, but I think it's very important that we're going into this match as a leader versus going into this match, either a point or two down or even level with Napoli. What about you?
Yeah, I'm also like cautiously optimistic. I feel the situation at the table like dictates a bit how each team is going to the game, and at least I hope we won't go like all guns blazing there, even if that's our usual style. I would want us to be like a bit more limited in a sense that not give them any space, do not make errors and so on, and then hit them at the break. One thing I'm a bit worried is our injury list because we lost Darmian now. Okay, he's a bench guy. We have Zalewski out. He's a bench guy. We have Augusto out. He's a bench guy. But it kind of pinpoints that our depth is maybe not that good anymore since these guys are like dropping out. I believe Thuram is coming back. I read the latest that he's not feeling any pain, so hopefully he's at least being able to make to the bench. But we might have to see some bench strikers starting, which is not too convincing given given the options. Uh, but yeah, I'm optimistic that we can pull off a good performance. I'm thinking, should we be happy with the draw? I guess we are in a sense, but I think the game will tell us. Are we? Are we? Of course, the win would put us in a very good position in the league anyway. So I'm fairly certain Inzaghi will go for the win, but I will hope he won't like try to break the bank and then it ends up kind of losing the match because of that. So let's see. Uh, all right, I guess we are done and we're gonna record next time after the
Yeah.
Napoli match. We will
Wait,
review
should we
that
offer our
and
official
then the
predictions?
yeah, sure. Well, how's
I don't know.
your how's
Maybe I'm
yours?
feeling just optimistic after this last Lazio match and the fact that we've finally taken the lead in the league. But I think we're going to win. I think we're going to score 2 goals. I don't think Napoli's going to score any. So I'm looking at a 2-goal win for us. And I'm going to give one of the goals to Barella, and I'm going to give the other goal to, man, it's tough. Guess I'm just going to have to do Lautaro by default. So I'm going to give it to Barella and Lautaro. What about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 1-0 win, and it's going to be
Awesome.
Thuram. He's going to come off the bench and decide the match.
Awesome.
All right. So that's it for this one, and
So we
see you
got
later.
to do your Forza Inter because Jay refused to do it at the end of the last one. He snuck it in, but it just wasn't the same. So let's give the fans what they want.
All right. Forza Inter, and see you on Sunday.
All right, see you guys.